Alright, so we're back. Part 2. Still covering Clash at the Castle. Left off with Edge and Rey Mysterio defeating the Judgment Day and talking about Dominic Mysterio's heel turn. But we go into, as we talked about, Dominic Mysterio's turn, getting a lot of, media, involvement in a sense, Want to talk about stuff that got a lot of people talking. Look no further than the feud between Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle, another man who got his first name back.
Rollins came out dressed like Elton John, right?
Yeah.
With devil horns and flames on a jumpsuit, which is apropos because things are getting heated between these two.
Yeah, and so, we basically have known that, as far as the backstage stuff goes, these two don't necessarily like each other all that much, but they've been professional about it, put it aside so that they can have a feud on the main roster. And we saw a bit of that history play into their lead up. Obviously it was about the two of them fighting, but then in the weeks leading up, they started getting real personal with it as they had a sit-down sort of interview segment, and you have Rollins kind of calling out Matt Riddle for his lack of family presence, if you want to say.
Oof. And they did it in such a cheeky way. They had that split-screen interview. They're in separate rooms, and I didn't see it live, but I think I caught in a replay that they kind of pretend like the interview's over. You hear that's a wrap. Riddle's all sort of getting, oh, we're good and we're gonna leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's gone and made a line that he's gonna prove that Becky Lynch is the man of their family because LOL OMG, challenge a man's gender identity. And what does Seth do in response, Jack?
As you mentioned, they're closing things up. Seth Rollins goes, "Hey, Riddle, you still there?" And Riddle's like, "I'm still here." And he goes, "You want to talk about my family? Let's talk about yours." "Oh, wait, except you don't got one because your wife divorced you and took the kids and they don't want to see you." Explicit.
Dang. Oh, and speaking of explicit, now Riddle is swearing and they're covering his mouth with pixels. And he's like, "I'm going to mess you up."
Yeah. And so that got a ton of people talking. I know I showed it to Dom, and he was like, "Wow, that was pretty explosive in a sense."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that definitely got a ton of people interested, and obviously I mentioned in episode 1, I was in Arizona at the time, and it was the only kind of downside of the trip because I had actually planned to invite not only Dom, but our other friend Gio as well to come over and watch like Dom has been doing for the previous events, and I was going to invite him over to watch this event, and this was definitely something he had intrigue in because of said clip,
Yeah. Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah, but he still enjoyed the aftermath as I kind of explained a lot of what happened, but, pretty much he just saw that segment and was like, wow, that's something that draws sort of your intrigue in because of how much it plays between the lines of, storytelling and reality.
And so the two men approach the ring, right? We're all ready for the big fight. Riddle does something that you just see too often. He's smiling and riding his scooter on his way to the ring. He turns it off, He's ready to get serious as soon as Rollins starts walking to the ring. But for the entire time that he's going to the ring, I think I wanted him to be a little more serious. Or Jack, or do I like that he turns it on for the show, turns it off when he sees the guy? What do you think? Am I being nitpicky? Am I being unfair?
No, I think Riddle definitely should have taken, how would you say it? He definitely should have taken the Big E way, where Big E a lot of times, he's obviously that fun-loving New Day character, but when stuff gets serious, you see him walk down to that ring with serious intent. You want a good example of Big E doing it? Look at the 2020 Rumble when he's walking down to that ring knowing that Kofi's in there with Brock Lesnar, who ended Kofi's reign. He doesn't walk out there clapping and going along with his team. He's walking down there with serious intent to back up his partner against Brock Lesnar.
I appreciate that comparison, Jack. Good. Because we saw him ride a scooter, he kicked his shoes off, we had the CGI somethings all flutter about the ring, right? They should have been CGI him with his arms crossed and a scowl on his face.
CGI version like how Roman's is.
Yeah, and like Rollins could come out and be like the cosplaying Elton John. Look at me, my drip, because that's his character. Look at,
Yeah. He's always been very unserious in the manner,
I like him most when he's like that, like with his like funny how like that laugh. That laugh is his character, is his gimmick.
Yeah, the man walked up to John Cena and proudly proclaimed how he broke his nose. He walked into Roman Reigns' locker room laughing and all that. It's part of him and his character. He can do that because he's unserious in the manner of like that's how he gets into their heads.
Correct. That's exactly what we did with Matt Riddle. Now, Jack, I have to apologize. I fell asleep and missed the entirety of this match. Not for the quality of the show. It was a long weekend after a long week. Like we said, school started, and I'm just tired, Jack.
I definitely feel you because, like I told you, it was just there was so much being done, especially because since I was out and about during all this, because to kind of give more clarity to what we were doing, there was an event in Pokemon Go, and my family is very avid with that game that we play. We walk around, get our exercise in as we play. We were walking around in that Arizona heat, and mind you, this pay-per-view was in the morning, meaning we were out there like around, I want to say 12. So right when that sun's right above you, and it's like 100 something in Arizona, we were out walking. So I can definitely relate to you on being tired, because the moment we got out of that heat, I was ready to, just lay down somewhere.
Dang. That's so funny. It's really exciting to hear that the Castillos are still playing Pokemon Go. My nephew as well. Whenever we go out, I want to tell him something, and I'm driving, and I look over like, are you playing Pokemon Go? Yes.
It's so funny because, we did all that, and to kind of give a little insight, we went right after, the pay-per-view finishes up as we're driving around still and exploring different parts of Arizona, and we decided to go somewhere, and because we were walking around the heat, we get our drinks as we're sitting down at the place, and we finish them pretty quickly. So our server brings us another round, and we finish them quickly. And she's like, "Man, I haven't seen customers finish this so quickly." And we're like, "Oh, sorry, we've been walking around in that heat all day. We're pretty tired and thirsty."
Golly, I'm certain you all were.
But
Jack, did you see the match?
I did see it, and I'm gonna be honest. I enjoyed it, but I felt a bit disappointed in a little bit. I don't know. It just kind of similar to the first match. It was kind of slow at points, and I don't know. There was just something missing from it, as per in comparison to Seth's matches with Cody, or with Roman at the Rumble, where it's like, despite there being such story behind the match,
yeah,
unlike those previous two encounters, it never really kind of, I don't know, I guess the story just kind of didn't push it to another level in a sense, which you would think it would.
Okay.
I don't know, I enjoyed it, but I don't know, there was at points where it was just I was watching and I don't know, I wasn't getting into it as much as previous, matches, and especially stories that Rollins has had this year. And I really think it does have to play into the fact that, I don't know, I guess it wasn't really until the very end that Riddle kind of explodes in a sense in comparison to what built up. It kind of felt like it took him such a long time to kind of play up the story of this very huge amount of heat between the two.
Yeah.
It kind of took
a little bit like we talked about in the entrances, right?
Yeah, it took kind of too long for Riddle to get to that serious manner.
Interesting.
Because, you know...
I hate to hear it.
Because, like how you mentioned with the Eddie and Ray match, you know, it was like they were kind of hitting all these, like, flashy moves, and you're kind of just like, these two were ready to, like, go at it after that interview. You would expect them to be, you know, just really going at it with one another.
Got it. Maybe a floating bro isn't the move to hit in this particular match for this particular story.
Yeah, and I think that was something that, like, people noticed too, was that they were like, I don't know, some of the moves Riddle are hitting, like, it would be kind of like, people felt like he should have changed up the moveset for this match, you know?
Not to Randy Orton's moveset, some third moveset. Howdy.
Yeah.
There's no Marco sighting.
Yeah. I don't know, it was a very interesting matchup. It wasn't obviously bad, but I just felt like if Riddle had taken a more serious approach, it definitely could have elevated the nature of this match.
Yeah.
And obviously, before we watch any of the events, leading up to them, I always ask my dad for his predictions of who he thinks will win. And both him and I kind of agreed that we thought Rollins should win this match because, you know, he hasn't, you know, he's been kind of losing too much in a sense. And if they want to really position him to be like a consistent challenger rather than relying just on his resume alone, they give him the win here to still look strong. And that's obviously what they went with as Rollins defeats Riddle. Yeah,
he's needed a win for a long old time. I think he's been winless for the entirety of 2022.
Yeah.
God, how many of those were to Cody Rhodes, right? So This is a good return to form for him. They'll probably run this back for Extreme Rules, which I think I saw a promo for. You're like, yeah, let's do this again, but with weapons. And maybe, Jack, we'll get the intensity that we wanted here.
Yeah, and obviously, people are going to think this is just me being a big hater on the tag team. But I think where Matt Riddle can definitely improve, especially with his absence, is to kind of lay back and kind of back off slowly from the Randy Orton sort of fanboying, in a sense, if you want to say. Because I think that's, like you mentioned it, don't use Orton's moveset, you know, kind of with his absence. Obviously, you can still play up, he's your tag partner and friend, but really lean into focusing on what makes Matt Riddle, and especially what type of Matt Riddle we're going to see once he departs from Orton's mentorship.
Agreed, bro.
Which, I will not make the prediction of when that mentorship will come to an end.
Because Randy Orton's going to come back from injury, and that tag team's going to continue stronger than ever.
Oh, man. But, to our surprise, sir, the main event is already here.
Goodness, what a bite-sized and digestible show.
Have you guys talked about the future Hall of Famer Damian Priest yet, or no?
I'm really glad Marco brought him back up, because I saw him interviewed on Cultaholic, and guess what? I think Sam Driver asked him, can he actually fire an arrow? And that guy said he owns multiple bows, and he can. Imagine my surprise, Jack, to hear him share that.
See, so it's pretty dope when he does it now, right?
At least I know he's not upsetting any archers watching.
Future Hall of Famer, I'm just saying.
Goodness.
But, yeah, sir, the main event is already here for tonight. Very short card, and honestly, I appreciate it. It was very digestible, this whole entire show.
Yep. We got the Universal World Heavyweight Champion. I think I said that wrong. Undisputed
WWE Universal Championship.
Ooh. Roman Reigns defending against the UK's own Drew McIntyre.
Yeah. A lot of hype behind this one. Again, first pay-per-view in 30 years. Is there going to be a huge change that, really sets in stone and sets this pay-per-view in history. Much like the last time.
Yes, did you see, Jack, the video package they put together for Drew McIntyre because there's so much rebuilding we have to do from the last year and a half?
Yes, Ricardo and I were very adamant in the build-up to this that we were excited to see Broken Dreams come back just because of how much that, like, if you look into the lyrics of that simple theme song that he used to have, the fact that you can apply it so much to, like, this match leading up,
Yeah.
Cause,
how funny.
Yeah, like, every time I listened to it as we built up to this match, I was just like, the lyrics almost seem so poetic because, like, the main lyric you hear is, you never see the shot that takes him down. And it's like, that can just so definitely be applied to if he beats Roman,
Yeah.
But, there was a lot of hype. Obviously, he doesn't return with the full theme song. They have that little hype package. And then he comes out to his normal theme. But they still give the fans, in a sense, of what they want. They don't give it to him fully, but they give him that little package.
It was the Giovanni Vici of the Drew McIntyre match. It was this little thing, right? We're not promising he's together with Imperium forever. We're just going to give you this one thing. You can replay it on YouTube forever.
Yeah, and as much as other people were obviously, I was obviously hyped, I obviously am a big fan of Drew, and, you and I both have, through this podcast detailed, basically his entire run, and talked about how they were giving him a break from the title picture because people felt he was in it too much. And, as you mentioned, because of that, appearance away from the title picture, they definitely did have to do they definitely have to do a lot of rebuilding with him, and
I mean, he became a weird Wikipedia of Scotland, like, an imperfect look at his own country's history.
Yeah.
You're like, the things you're saying sound like they were written by a 71-year-old man who's being indicted.
Yeah, and getting back on track to where I was going with all that, a lot of people felt like this was a return to form, and they felt like, this could be his time, the way they hyped it up. But me being obviously the pessimist that I am, I just did everything in my own nature to convince myself that it wasn't going to happen, just to not, kill my hopes. So the entire time leading up to this match, I was joking around with Ricardo with all sorts of scenarios of how Drew wouldn't win the match. I was like, oh great, Karrion Kross is going to crack him over the dome with his big old hourglass and he's going to lose to Roman. Or
he was sitting ringside.
Yeah, or I think I mentioned something about Tyson Fury knocking him out and getting counted out or something, and that's how Roman retains or whatever.
He was also ringside.
Yeah, but the funniest one was on that day, because after seeing Giovanni Vinci show up, I messaged Ricardo, and as a joke, I said, oh gosh, no, I have it figured out. Solo Sikoa is going to show up and cost Drew the title.
It's so funny you would even think of that, because you know who's not at ringside with the Tribal Chief? The Undisputed Tag Team Champions, the Usos, I don't think are allowed to travel internationally.
Not at the current moment.
Paul Heyman missing from Roman Reigns' corner as well. You think, goodness, if anyone's going to help him, maybe it's the third Uso brother that we've seen on NXT 2.0.
But, sir, you're forgetting a key member who was also not there at ringside. The most valuable piece to the bloodline. Sami Zayn was not at ringside.
No, he was not.
Yeah. So,
and what about Austin Theory, who was at the kickoff show match? Was he going to come out and spoil everyone's fun?
Yeah, so obviously don't want to give spoilers before we get into the match, but yeah, I was throwing every scenario out there because I was like, I don't want to, get myself, my hopes too high just for them.
Meanwhile,
to be
Jack,
down.
Meanwhile, in the Solis household, I was watching it at my mom and dad's house with my dad and my niece. I knew that Roman Reigns was leaving with the titles. I told your dad before we started recording, it wasn't gonna be Drew. It couldn't be Drew. He's still warming up. Like, we're still rebuilding him from the funny, like the weird, like, caricature of himself that Vince McMahon kind of made Drew, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's still in damage control, to quote Bailey's new group. We're still rebuilding. We've got to put as much distance between us and him quoting Mel Gibson's character from Braveheart every other week.
And not only that, we've also heard about how Drew's been dealing with back issues. So, you know, that's another thing to look into. Maybe he's not fully healed enough to carry that workload.
Goodness, poor guy's been carrying the whole mid-card for about 2 years.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously getting into the match, what'd you think about it, sir?
Well, you know what you do with a guy who's dealing with back troubles? You put him in like a 20-minute match.
Yeah.
A hard-hitting one, too. This one, like, rivals Gunther and Sheamus for, like, just being a tough-looking match between two big old hosses.
Yeah, you know, and they definitely... The one thing I loved was how commentary kept playing up the fact that whenever McIntyre was really getting the best of Roman, or, you know, getting in his head, they kept playing up how the absence of Paul Heyman was really affecting him, because, you know, this was like the one moment that, you know, similar to his match with Cesaro, you know, where it was like he didn't have anyone there to help him. You got to see how does Roman Reigns put it all together and do it on his own when he doesn't have his counsel out there, when he doesn't have his cousins out there, you know, to help him.
Yeah. And I thought, like, I heard it. I don't watch SmackDown, but I heard, like, in the weeks leading up to Clash, Roman's, like, almost befriended Sami Zayn, you know, humoring him, like, as if to, like, develop that, like, plan B.
Yeah, you know, and, you know, they've definitely shown that, and, you know, to a lot of people, they're looking forward to an eventual Sami Zayn face turn, potentially teaming with Kevin Owens to face off against the Usos. A lot of story there. But yeah, you definitely see, like, you know, there was a couple of moments where, you know, Reigns is very, like, obviously shaken and, you know, feels that lack of presence from just anybody being there for him at ringside, you know. And I thought that was an interesting sort of character, sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Development? Yeah, development, you know. And then obviously you get Karrion Kross ringside, really trying to distract either man.
Yeah, I guess, you know, now that we sort of reintroduced him and Scarlett, he really distracts Drew more than Roman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a foil. He's played his role. We won't see much of him anymore. But what else happens, Jack?
We see Roman in the middle of the match grab a mic and demand that the crowd acknowledges him.
Yep. Great. Funny, and, like, what a funny way of breaking up the action, but McIntyre comes at him with a pretty great looking headbutt.
Yeah. And then the one thing I loved, Drew is constantly trying to hit that Claymore, and Reigns is avoiding it. Meanwhile, Reigns is hitting him with everything he's got, and Drew is really just getting out of all of it. You know, he gets hit with a spear, he kicks out of it. He gets him in the guillotine, but McIntyre gets out of it, obviously. You know, he gets speared again, and he kicks out of it, you know. And then that's when, you know, you get to the closing moments of the match where Reigns starts arguing with the ref, you know, turns around, is about to get hit with a Claymore. Or, wait, no, he does get hit with the Claymore, but that knocks him into the ref, and the ref gets knocked out. And that's when we see Austin Theory running out with his Money in the Bank briefcase to cash in. And, sir, does he cash in?
He does not. I think makes his way to next to the commentary table. I think that's where Roman is, right? And he comes within striking distance of only Tyson Fury, who's sitting behind the commentators. He leans over, clocks him with one right, knocks him out cold. What an incredible spot. It looks so painful.
Yeah, just too funny. But I like the way it's still played into the match where McIntyre hits another Claymore and that ref runs in to do the count, you know?
That's right. Then the commentator calls out that it's actually Austin Theory's ref who's counting now, and you're like, what a great, clever way of bringing another ref out.
Yeah. Then we see McIntyre hit a spear of his own and a Claymore, and he's gonna win the match until the ref is dragged out by someone wearing a hoodie. And sir, who is it?
Who is it? It's MJF. No, it's not. It's Solo Sikoa.
Yeah.
It's a Uso. It's a debut that should have happened like 4 months ago, but it's happening now. It's so funny, Jack, how much this would have been well received if it was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
People were literally fan writing this exact moment.
Yeah. You remember?
Just that they did it now, that they're so upset.
Do you remember when he first got signed? And I remember telling you about, like, hey, watch them throw him into the bloodline, you know?
Yep. He's wearing that Property WWE shirt on Instagram. He's just the ink's not dry on his
tattoos.
No, his tattoos are on his contract, and people are like, debuting on SmackDown.
Yeah, but he interferes, and my prediction is correct. He gets in the way. He obviously distracts McIntyre. McIntyre turns around into a spear to retain, or for Roman to retain both his titles. And very sort of shocking but disappointing to a lot of people, but myself included, though I was disappointed. I saw it coming.
I wished I was wrong, right? Like, I knew he wasn't going to win, but I wished that he would have won, and I would have been happy to look back and say I called it wrong, right? But I wasn't. And the fans, there's a tough pill to swallow. And you know what, Jack? Like, it was so disappointing. Did the events that happened after the match make things better or make things worse?
In my opinion, it makes things worse solely because we go back to the whole point of insulting intelligence, and the only reason I felt my intelligence was insulted was because of the people trying to explain why it made sense.
So Tyson Fury comes into the ring. I think he shakes Roman's hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he shakes Drew's hand and gets a mic, and he says, "You did your country proud. Let's all sing." What's his name? The guy with all the Margaritavilles. They're singing, shoot, Margaritaville song. Jimmy Buffett. No, they're not singing Jimmy Buffett. They're singing American Pie.
Yeah.
Weird song choice.
They start singing to close out the event, and the only reason I felt my intelligence was insulted was because of all the people that were like, they have to send the crowd home happy. Why did the people at home sitting watching on Peacock have to see it then? Why do we, as the audience watching, have to see a man like Drew, who's made his entire sort of build-up be, I care about this title, it's my life's work to get this title back, win it in front of the fans, get the moment I never got? Why do we have to see literal minutes after he lost the match, the biggest match in his career, get up and be like, whatever, let me just start singing?
Or, let's go party, everyone. Like their Rodney Dangerfield's cameo character as Mr. Burns' son on that episode of The Simpsons.
They literally they literally Kofi'd Drew McIntyre, except they didn't wait for the following SmackDown. You know, when Kofi lost his title, the next week on SmackDown, he's out there celebrating, throwing pancakes, being all happy New Day, and the same thing with Drew. Except, like I said, they didn't wait for the following SmackDown. They couldn't even wait till they went off the air. They just have him get up and act like he doesn't care that he just lost the biggest match of his career.
So since you've taken the role as the more cynical and callous one of us, I will be the devil's advocate and say that I suppose that it's something that UK shows are known to do. You know, Tyson Fury apparently does this all the time after his boxing matches. I think a key element that we've all omitted is the fact that he usually does it after a win. You know,
yeah.
So, but I think like the UK crowd are one to like just sing along with one another after, you know, a show. Isn't it a little poetic that Drew McIntyre gets a lot of them to sing "Don't Look Back in Anger" by Oasis? Goodness, listen, y'all. I don't think you're listening to the lyrics. But don't look back in anger. I heard you say.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was a good match, but I definitely agree. Although some people may think, you know, it's not like a fair sort of way of it's not a fair point of criteria, but like I agree with people saying that like had Drew won, it may have increased a lot of basically increased the way a lot of people viewed this match, you know, or like their rating for it, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think conversely, if Reigns was like super dominant, you know, if they didn't give Drew so many close calls and near falls, like we all would have found it a lot more palatable.
Yeah, you know, definitely just, you know, it was still a good match. That's something I want people to know from like my perspective.
A good match, and I maybe might think better than the last one they had.
Yeah, I definitely think so. You know, they definitely played a lot with people's emotion and
like a fiddle.
Yeah, you know, and it just makes people hyped, you know, or you know, it just adds more to Drew's character development. Hopefully, you know.
Mm-hmm. So, Jack, we finished Clash at the Castle. What was the match of the night for you?
The match of the night for me, I'd probably have to say it's either the main event or it's Gunther versus Sheamus. One of those two.
For me, it's undeniably Gunther versus Sheamus.
Yeah, really enjoyed those two. Not to look too far ahead in the future, even though it is less than 3 months away. But, sir, did you have any match of the year candidates on this card for yourself?
Gunther versus Sheamus makes the list for sure.
All right, yeah. I definitely think so, and especially, I don't rewatch too many matches, but definitely will probably be giving that one. And maybe Rollins and Riddle just a rematch, just to see if I'm reaffirmed in my criticisms and critique of that
I
match.
might want to catch Rollins versus Riddle too, having slept through it.
Yeah, but, you know, like I mentioned, a very good card, very palatable as it's only a couple hours long. It's right in the middle of the day, so you still have the rest of your day to go forward with.
I certainly did. My kids, my nieces and nephew and I went shopping to the mall for some air-conditioned fun. You went and caught a Pikachu or something. So, Jack, with the remaining 10 minutes left of this episode, let's think about it. What are we going to do with the next episode? You think you want to talk about Worlds Collide?
I am down to cover it, sir, if you are.
Now, let me think about this, Jack. Worlds Collide is a short card. Do you think we could fit it in one episode with time left to spare to maybe talk about highlights and the fallout of All Out?
Definitely, for sure.
I say we breeze right past like the women's tag team match. I say we breeze right past. But there's like 5 matches. I don't want to breeze past the others because they're so important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
I heard somebody look back at Worlds Collide and say, "Didn't that feel like a takeover of old?"
Yeah, definitely.
Goodness gracious, Jack. I am looking forward to it. So I say that's what we do. Worlds Collide, and then this sort of potpourri of what you took away from All Out. And what the hell happened over there, Jack? What's happening over there? They all need Jesus, am I right?
Oh, man. Definitely, because I'll talk about it here just to sort of fill in a bit more time, just so that we don't cut the listening audience short with this episode. The real quick thing I want to mention is, it's something that I saw a page that I follow on Instagram, a wrestling page, kind of share the same sentiment, and that is that the fallout really kind of annoyed me because it was such a grandiose weekend of wrestling, all these events, so packed with all these events, and it ends on such a bitter note because of what happens afterwards, and it overshadows a lot of the work that went into on all those previous cards.
And you know what, Jack? Like, the immediate reaction, like AEW's done all summer, is this a work? Is this a shoot?
Yeah.
And so much has been uncovered and so much has been said and reported and done that you think this all doesn't end in a match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, does this end in a match? Are they going to make money off this? The answer is no. And there are legal implications for what happened, Jack.
Yeah. Very, very crazy stuff that happened on that, And like I said, I was just especially, like, annoyed and frustrated because it was like, yeah, it was a bloated card that a lot of people struggled to sit through, I saw, but, like, there was still good matches on that card. There was still great moments on that card, and it just gets overshadowed by some drama after the fact.
It so gets overshadowed, and so many important talking points that we should be harping on are gonna dissipate as we go into the real action of this weekend. I can't wait for the next episode. I hope the audience can't as well.
Yeah. So with that being said, we'll close out early in this episode. Tune into part 3 where we cover Worlds Collide, All Out, and then the fallout of All Out.
Oh.
So thank you for all joining for this episode. See you in part 3.